What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're doing something a little different because we're diving into a piece of poetry that I discovered in my favorite game, Cyberpunk 2077. What? The piece I chose is The Marriage of Heaven and Hell by William Blake. And when I first saw Blake's writing in Cyberpunk, I honestly didn't know it was like real work written hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So today I want to talk about what it actually means, why I chose it, and why some of the lines stood out to me personally. But first, who was William Blake? Blake was an English poet and an artist who lived roughly around the 1700s to the early 1800s. The Marriage of Heaven and Hell explores ideas like evil and good, or reason and emotions, and how opposites can exist together. And instead of explaining it, I want to read some of Blake's actual words first. Without contraries is no progression, attraction and repulsive, reason and energy, love and hate are necessary to human existence. From these contraries spring what the religions call good and evil. Good is passive to obeys reason. Evil is the active spring to energy, or from energy. Good is heaven, evil is hell. The road of access leads to the palace of wisdom. After I read you the actual words of William Blake, what stood out to me the most is the line, without contraries is no progression. I interpret that as meaning that we need opposites and conflict in order to change and grow. Things aren't always completely good or completely bad. That's something I can connect to personally because I had difficult experiences in my life, but those experiences have also affected who I've become. I like the idea that anger, pain, happiness, love, and even conflict can all exist within the same person. I don't think people are as simple as being either good or bad. Someone can make mistakes and still have good parts of themselves. Someone can also experience something painful and eventually grow from it. I also think that's one of the reasons this writing fits Cyberpunk 2077 so well. The game consistently shows a world where the difference between good and evil isn't simple. Characters can make bad decisions for understandable reasons, and people who appear powerful or successful aren't necessarily good people. That connection alone made the poem more interesting to me, because I discovered something written hundreds of years ago through a futuristic video game, but the ideas can still apply to people today. My critical analysis about the poem. One of the biggest themes in the marriage of heaven and hell is duality, meaning two opposite things existing together. He uses this contrast. Instead of simply arguing that one side is good and the other is bad, Blake challenges that idea. He says, without contraries is no progression, suggesting that both sides are necessary for change. Blake also uses paradox because some of his statements initially sound contradictory. For example, the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom suggests that going too far or making mistakes can sometimes teach a person something. Wisdom doesn't necessarily come only from always making the safest choice. He also uses imagery throughout the work, including images of nature, animals, fire, heaven, and hell. These images make his ideas feel more dramatic and help turn philosophical ideas into something that the reader can picture. I think Blake deliberately makes some of his statements strange and provocative because he wants the reader to question ideas that they normally accept without thinking about them. And now, my conclusion. Overall, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell made me think differently about what we considered good and bad. My biggest takeaway from the work is Blake's ideas that opposites are necessary for progression. I originally chose it because I discovered it through Cyberpunk 2077, but after looking at the original writing, I realized that the message goes much deeper than it appears in the game. To me, it's about accepting that people are complicated. We can experience anger and love, pain and happiness, reason and emotion at the same time. Those contradictions don't necessarily stop us from progressing. Sometimes they're actually part of what makes us change and grow. And that's why the line "without contraries is no progression" is part of William Blake's work that stuck with me the most. Before I finish, I want to leave you with a question. Do you think people need experience both good and bad things in life in order to truly grow as a person? Why or why not? Thank you for listening.